Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleeden Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. And if we're meeting for the first time, allow me to introduce myself. I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I am so grateful for the work that I do. It is something that infuses my heart with so much love. And you might wonder what an angelic practitioner does. Well, let me tell you, I offer one-on-one angel sessions which take place over the phone. They're an hour long, and we come together and have beautiful conversation with the intention being to help you deepen with your divine guidance. And I bring forward the angels, and they're really beautiful. And if you're ever interested in scheduling an angel session, just drop me a note or visit my website at illuminatingsouls.com. I also offer a variety of classes. So every 6 weeks or so, I have a new class that I offer. My classes are always very small in size, anywhere between 4 and 10 people. So you'll join a beautiful community of other light bearers, and the energy is just beautiful. So if you're looking for a way to receive some additional support and inspiration, it would be wonderful to have you join one of my classes. And you can find out about everything I'm doing at my website, illuminatingsouls.com, where you can also sign up for my mailing list. There are actually 2 different places on my homepage. You can sign up for my list. At the top of the page is just my general mailing list, and you'll receive all of my announcements and updates. And then further down is the daily inspiration email blast. And if you sign up for that, you'll receive an inspiring email from me every weekday. And I also publish daily over on my Facebook page. So lots of ways that we can connect. But for now, the angels and I are here to cultivate a beautiful, sweet, light-infused space where you can replenish and receive the love and light that is here for you. This podcast has 2 components. The first is this one that we're in. This is where I bring forward some kind of insight, perhaps. That's feeling ambitious this morning, but we'll see what comes forward. That is usually spiritually centric. And I also bring forward the angels for you. And the first part is usually anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes, give or take. And then the second part is story time. And story time, it can be a lot of things. It can be stories from my life. I might read to you from an old community cookbook or some publication that's in the public domain. In this episode, we're going to be flipping through the pages of an old TV guide from 1963. So I know many of you have shared with me that the TV guide episodes are your favorites. So stay tuned. I got good stuff for you. And each episode runs about an hour. And this is because as a listener of sleep podcasts, I prefer hour-long episodes because then I don't feel like I have to hurry up and fall asleep. I typically can fall asleep within an hour. So I am an avid listener of sleep podcasts. I listen to one every night before I go to sleep. I put in my earbuds and I snuggle up under the covers. I do use a sleep timer on the podcast app so that whatever I'm listening to is going to stop playing after 45 minutes or an hour. And last night I listened to Sleep With Me. It was one of their travel stories that I listened to, and I was up then in the wee hours of the morning. And then I did listen to a Sleepy Bedtime Blessings episode, because this also helps me fall asleep. So if you're new to the world of sleep podcasts, if you just happen to stumble across this, it is a wonderful way to help bridge that space between waking consciousness and that sleep, that beautiful mystery of sleep we go into. You know, there is something so cozy, at least for me, something so cozy about hearing a soft, sweet voice, speaking, rambling a bit in the background, not really having to focus too hard on the content. And when I'm listening to a sleep podcast, I actually turn the volume down lower than I would if I were listening to an audiobook, so that I have to reach just a little bit for the audio. Growing up, we had a 2-story house, and my sister and I, our bedroom was on the 2nd floor. And so as we were drifting off to sleep, my parents would still be awake downstairs, and the TV might be playing in the background, or they might be having a conversation, and I would just faintly hear the noises from downstairs. And whether it was my parents' voices or the television set, it was very comforting to me. So I grew up with these low, rambling noises being a very comforting experience. And that carries over today, that there's just something really lovely about sharing sleep space with a sleep podcast. It brings me a sense of warmth and comfort. So my hope is that this podcast can do that for you too. And I do know that many of you listen during your waking hours, so I'm grateful to hear that I am a good companion when you are awake, as well as when you're drifting off to sleep. So however you choose and whenever you choose to listen, I am grateful. Thank you so much for being here and allowing me to share part of your day or night with you. It really is a blessing. So as I record this, it is early morning, and now that we're in the springtime moving towards summer, it's getting lighter earlier. So if I were recording this a few months ago at this time, it would still be dark out, but it's light out now, and it's such a beautiful time of day. The quality of light is just so pretty as it shines upon the leaves of the trees, and the promise of a new day feels very present. And I love getting to start my day in this way, in front of the microphone, in the company of the angels. In the last episode, I shared with you the power of divine light and my experience that it really uplifts me. And it's one of the things I have truly come to rely upon in this life that I live, in the work that I do, is the power of the light. It's so interesting to me that I can be in my Earth Girl crabbiness about something, because listen, I am mercurial. I feel deeply the whole spectrum of feels I have, and I can be a little crabby some days, and then I have sessions to do for people, and as soon as I center myself in the light, I feel a shift. It's authentic. And whatever had been feeling heavy to me is lifted. And I'm able to rise above. And when the session is over, I don't return to the level that I was prior to the session. I have more altitude and more resiliency. So it's the most interesting experience that this work truly nurtures me as well. So this opportunity to start my day in the light with you, even if you are ending your day in the light with me, what a blessing it is to bring whatever is happening in our hearts and in our lives into this love-filled, light-filled container where the angels meet us with their hearts wide open and shine this love upon us. And I experience this love as tangible. It's a tangible experience for me. I realize for many people it is metaphoric. Maybe you don't feel it or sense it, but I am very blessed that over the years I have developed a sensitivity to it where I can, most days, feel it and sense it. Not always, I say most days. Truly, if I'm really in the weeds, you know that term, in the weeds of life, where something's overwhelming me or I'm short-tempered about something or, just having one of those off days, I forget all about the angels. And my husband will say to me, have you talked to your friends yet? Which is code for, have I connected with the angels? And every time he asks me that question, the answer, of course, is no. No, what angels? What are you talking about? Because I experience the contrast between my earth girl self and my practitioner self. I mean, there's pretty good bridging between the two. I don't mean to make it sound like they are completely separate entities, but sometimes the light feels a bit elusive because I forget about it. Not because it's not here, more because I don't remember to lift my head up and remember that it is here and allow myself to be supported. So this is why I do this work, to help you remember. And you know what? To help me remember too. Getting to do this work and share these messages, sharing this space with you, it nourishes me as well. So I'm so grateful that we can come together sharing this beautiful, beautiful invitation of light from the angels, where we can be replenished, nurtured, nourished, uplifted, and most of all, loved up. We get to be loved up by our angels. So the angels are already here, and I love sharing the ritual of calling them in with you. So I invite you to get really comfortable in whatever way works best for you. If you are preparing for bedtime, I invite you to cozy on up and snuggle on in. And we'll take a few deep breaths in and out as we gently call ourselves forward into the heart of God. And beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here. I ask that you bring forward beautiful love and light, so that everyone listening to this broadcast, whenever they listen, will feel and receive the blessings of love that you are seeding into this broadcast. Angels, I ask that you lift from us that which we no longer need to carry, that which does not belong to us, helping us to feel uplifted as we remember the beautiful truth and wholeness of all that we are, Help us remember that this world is a beautiful place and that each of us has a beautiful place here in this world, in our lives. And dear ones, just take some more nice deep breaths in as the angels are infusing the space you are in with a beautiful, soft, pink light. And this light is bringing to you healing, love, helping you come into alignment with the beauty of your soul, the wisdom of your heart. One of the aspects of an affirmation that I have used for many years says, I am trusting in my knowingness, and I am enthusiastically listening to the magic in my soul. And so I bring that forward for you, that you can trust in your knowingness, the deepest truth of you, the deepest wisdom that is within you, and that you can enthusiastically listen to the magic in your soul. Isn't that a beautiful invitation? I just love remembering that I have magic in my soul. That's right. Let's open up to that. So here's to celebrating the magic in your soul, the beauty of your spirit, your knowingness, your light, your gifts and abilities, your preciousness, and the magnificence that is you. So just take another deep breath in and release, allowing yourself to be uplifted. I sometimes feel that image of the angels helping me to lift my feet up off the earth for a little bit so I can disengage from what is happening on the earth's surface and replenish from the heavens. So here's to replenishing from the divine realms, feeling that recalibration as we connect with our wholeness and our innate beauty and goodness and light. So just go ahead and breathe in and out. And if you have any prayers or intentions you wish to share with the angels, you can bring them into your heart and they receive them with love. You can let the angels know how they can help you, how they can support you. The angels bring you blessings. And so, my beautiful friends, I invite you to cozy on up, and if this is your bedtime, to just drift off whenever you are ready. And if this is the middle of your day, then just enjoy. And we're going to move on into story time. So as I promised, for this story time, we're returning to the pages of a TV guide from March of 1963. This is the TV guide that has the Beverly Hillbillies on the cover, and a while ago, I went through the first part of this issue, and I said, we'll come back to it, and I didn't realize it was going to be this long before we came back to it. As I seem to recall, we ended on Monday night. So I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it's what I remember. So we're going to start again with Tuesday. So again, just to set the stage, 1963. Well, I was 10 months old, maybe. So I don't have any memory of this time. I was not watching TV at this point, unless my mother, put me in front of it somehow. But many of these shows I remember because they were a part of what I remember watching once they came into syndication. Because back in the day when I was growing up, we had like 4 television stations. There were no VCRs. There was no Netflix. There was no cable. You watched what was on when it was on. So there was no going back and rewatching something because you want to, right? It's not on demand. You can't just cue it on up and watch it again. You had to watch it when it was on. And if you missed it, or if it was your favorite episode, you would have to wait for it to come back as a rerun to watch it again. And in my early childhood, we had a black and white television. There were no remote controls then. The remote control was getting up and changing the channel. And television was a family experience because in many homes there was only one television and we would watch together. So it was a shared experience. So we'll go through some of these shows again. I'll share with you sort of my memories of these shows. I wasn't watching them in 1963, but they certainly are a part of the tapestry of my childhood. In the last episode for this issue, we talked about Beverly Hillbillies, which of course I watched, and I reminded you of the theme song, which I will not do again. But it's a great theme song for a show. And I realize if you are not from the United States, you might not know these shows. And also, if you weren't born in the 60s and 70s, you might not know these shows either, but I will still attempt to entertain you. So here's what we've got. As I look at this, but wait, there's more. One more thing. The other thing about this time period was TV stations were not on 24 hours a day. They would stop broadcasting in the early hours of the morning, and then they would start broadcasting again, 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, usually with some kind of prayer thing. And so when the stations were off the air, you would have color bars. So if you were ever up in the middle of the night and wanted to watch television and you got the color bars, it was really kind of sad because, for me, I would think, oh my God, I'm the only one awake right now. We didn't have the internet or TikTok or Facebook or something else where we could be connected 24/7. That was really a sense of I'm alone in the world when I would see the color bars. So I'm not going to go through just too much of the early morning stuff, although they are showing things like I Love Lucy and the McCoys, those kinds of shows in syndication at this point, which means they're airing during the daytime and they're reruns. So on this Tuesday, as we get a little later in the day, the Mickey Mouse Club is on, which I remember the song and all of a sudden came back into my head, which I will not sing because I don't want to get into copyright issues, but it does involve spelling out Mickey, MICKEYMOUSE. I don't know why, that just came back to me. I haven't thought about that in decades, but now it is front of mind again. At this point, it looks like Leave It to Beaver is still in its first run, and this episode is Lumpy's scholarship to state comes through, and though Wally is disappointed that his own application was turned down, he decides to throw a party for his pal. I don't know that I've seen a lot of episodes of Leave It to Beaver. It was not cool even when I was a kid. Like, we were past the Leave It to Beaver stage. I'm going to skip over some of the other shows because I don't really have a relationship with them. But I will say it looks like there's a first run of Maverick with James Garner. I love James Garner in Maverick and Rockford Files and that movie that he did with Sally Field. I can't remember the name of it, but it is the best movie. It's a love story. So I don't remember the name of it, and I'm too lazy to go look it up, but if you want to see a really beautiful romantic comedy and you haven't seen it yet, just go Google James Garner and Sally Field movie and you'll find it, and it is so sweet. I might have to go back and watch it again now that it's come front of mind for me. One of the shows that is on, which I remember from childhood, is Red Skelton. He, if you don't know who he is or was, he was a comedian, and he had a sketch comedy show, and he was someone who just had a lot of heart. He just seemed, I don't know what he was like in real life, but my perception of him was he was incredibly kind. He just really exuded a lot of kindness. And so in this episode, Red's guests are Marilyn Maxwell and Jackie Coogan. So I'm sure that would have been delightful. I do remember that, just watching the show as a kid. I don't remember this episode clearly because I was 10 months old. Also airing is roller skating, Olympic roller skating, which must have been riveting at the time. As a kid, I remember there would be things like roller skating and bowling, and I would be so disappointed because I didn't want to watch any of those. Jack Benny's show is on, and George Burns is a guest. The Untouchables, which was a classic television show in the day. And then a lot of movies are being aired here, which I don't necessarily know many of them. So let's go ahead then and we will skip on over to Wednesday. So Wednesday night, CBS Reports is doing an episode about the storm over the Supreme Court that's dealing with the background and conclusion to the controversial New York school prayer case. In 1958, 5 parents brought suit against Nassau County's Herrick School Board because it adopted the word prayer. Which is so interesting because this is still an issue today about prayer in schools. So, I don't know that we're ever going to get past this issue, but I just think that's interesting. So, one of the big specials for Wednesday night back on March 13th, 1963 is a Bob Hope comedy special. I was never a big fan of his specials, but they always made a big deal out of them. And this one, his guests are Frank Sinatra. As a kid, I wouldn't have cared. 30-year-old me, if Frank Sinatra was on something, I was fascinated. I went through a Rat Pack phase where I loved everything with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, Sammy Davis. I loved all of their stuff. So 30-year-old me would have watched. Wait, I have a little Frank Sinatra story for you. I don't know him. It's not that I met him or anything juicy like that. But when I worked for one of the companies in the entertainment industry, I got to go to the American Music Awards, which was so cool. And so what happens at these award shows is you see the part that's televised, right? And then they go to commercial break. And so during commercial break is when the producer might come on and give the audience instructions or encouragement. So this particular American Music Awards, they were giving Frank Sinatra a Lifetime Achievement Award. At this point, he was too old to travel, so he wasn't there. He was at home in Palm Springs watching. And at the time, Dick Clark was the producer of the show. So during the commercial break, he speaks to the audience and he says, the next segment, we're going to be giving Frank Sinatra his Lifetime Achievement Award. Please applaud, everybody. Please give a big applaud. Mr. Sinatra is watching at home, and we want to let him know how much we love him or something like that. I mean, he might not have said love. I just was stunned that Dick Clark felt that he had to give the audience encouragement to applaud for Frank Sinatra. I was like, in what planet is this audience not going to jump to their feet? But they wouldn't have, because by that point, he wasn't the cool guy anymore, whereas I was going to stand up and cheer. It's Frank, right? So I'll never forget that. I thought, wow, how sad that he has to remind people to be very enthusiastic for Frank Sinatra. So, just a little aside. So, he's got Frank Sinatra, Robert Goulet, Brenda Lee, Edie Adams, and the Hollywood Deb Stars. I don't know who that is. Let's see. Frank Sinatra is going to be singing Call Me Irresponsible. I don't remember that song, but I'm sure it was wonderful. The other thing that was on this evening, Beverly Hillbillies, first run. So at this point, it's not a rerun. It is a hit show. And this is the first time this episode is being seen. I don't know if I remember this episode from my many reruns of Beverly Hillbillies, but this is the one. Snobbish Mrs. Drysdale. So again, if you do not know Beverly Hillbillies, Mr. Drysdale was their banker. So this is his wife. Snobbish Mrs. Drysdale is afraid that the Clampetts will make a bad impression on her distinguished house guest, Priscilla Smith Standish, the president of the Society for the Preservation of Early American Traditions. What could possibly go wrong? I'm sure it was a very funny episode that I would have loved as a child. There's also a special called Hollywood, which is narrated by Henry Fonda. So hang on, I'll give you a little bit of information about that. So this is a David Wolper trilogy. He was a big producer in Hollywood, and they're talking about the star system. So they're talking about the pressures of life in a fishbowl. So Marilyn's tragic love affair, Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn, Marlene Dietrich, Cary Grant, Joan Crawford. And then there's going to be excerpts from current and yet to be released films where we see the new breed stars. So they would have been the up and coming stars at the time. Shirley MacLaine, Jack Lemmon, Geraldine Page, and Tony Perkins. Well, that would be so interesting to see today, wouldn't it? To kind of, contextualize where they all went and what happened. I love those kinds of films and documentaries. When we were younger, it wasn't just me, it was my brother and sister too. The movie That's Entertainment came out, which is a compilation of some of the MGM great musicals. And it was narrated and hosted by Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. And I think it came out in the 70s. And my mom was so excited about it. We went to this beautiful theater downtown. I don't remember which one, but downtown Chicago. And we saw it on the big screen. And it was kind of my first exposure to a lot of these big productions, the Busby Berkeley musicals, Esther Williams swimming, and just, I don't know, so enchanting. So something like this about a Hollywood documentary would be just my cup of tea. It seems like this was a big night for specials, because also airing was the Bell Telephone Hour, which I don't really remember, but I just have this very faint memory that they were a big deal. Like when the Bell Telephone Hour was on, it was usually something my parents would want to watch. So this one has opera singer Leontine Price. So my mom would have for sure been wanting to watch this because she loved opera. And also for concert goers, veteran violinist Erica Marini. And then for moviegoers, Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet. So lots of options. And Carol Lawrence, who we came to know for the Carol Burnett Show, is on here as well. So just a whole smorgasbord of things to experience on the Bell Telephone Hour. So let's come on over to Thursday, and I haven't been telling you what's on during the daytime, but this one just caught my eye, which is Romper Room. And I grew up watching Romper Room. If you're of my age group and you lived in the United States, you probably did too. And if you remember, the teacher, it was Miss Sandy or somebody like that, had the magic mirror. And she would hold the magic mirror up to the camera, and she would look through the magic mirror to see you. And so she would say, I see Timmy, and I see Lisa. And she would name common names, right? Because she really wasn't seeing any of us. And she never said, I see Laurel. Like one of those pain points of growing up with an uncommon, at the time, name. She might see, I see Lauren. I see Lori. And I'd be like, oh, it wasn't me. She doesn't see me. I remember just being very disappointed that she could never see me through the magic mirror. I didn't understand at the time that it was a ruse. It was all a giant hoax. So, a little tidbit from childhood there. And there's, of course, different versions of I Love Lucy and Kit Carson to keep you company during the day. And the soap operas were a big deal. Search for Tomorrow. Like lots of soaps that aren't on anymore. Also during the day, there are game shows. And one of them is Password, who famously is hosted by Alan Ludden. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Alan Ludden and Betty White were married. And, he passed away, a couple decades before she did. And she was doing one of those actor studio interviews. There used to be a wonderful show called The Actors Studio. And I forget the name of the gentleman who was the host, so forgive me for that. But he always would ask a series of questions at the end of an interview. And one of the questions is, when you get to the pearly gates, what would you like God to say to you? A really profound question. And I remember Betty White's answer, without missing a beat. She said, here's Alan. I just cried. Isn't that beautiful? Like, when you get to the pearly gates, what do you want to hear God say? Here's Alan. Here's your beloved. Oh, that always touches my heart, the love the two of them shared. Okay, we'll skip on over to Thursday evening. So there's an interesting show called California the Most. I don't know if this is a national show, or it must be national. So let's read about this, because it's going to give us some insight to what California was like in 1963, the perception. So California seems to run on sunshine and optimism. That's great, says NBC's Edwin Newman, who narrates this film about the growing pains of the most populous state, California, the most. Films and stills show the state's history and some of its sun-tanned, hopeful immigrants. Spanish missionaries, 49ers, and the Okies. The sudden expansion of recent years has brought problems as well as prosperity. Freeways are jammed. Oh my God, they have no idea what a jammed freeway is like in 1963 compared to now. The defense industry attracts workers from across the country, but can't always provide job security. So, and then they're talking about segregation. Yeah, this was a difficult time. But we see the humorous side of California too. Push-button homes, I don't know what that means. A college that offers a degree in auto repair, and a wedding on roller skates. I don't know. I just think these things are time capsules, right? To go back and see what the perception of things. So a push-button home, what do you think that is? What had been made push button back in the day. I don't know if we had push button phones at that point. You know, if you could push a button and turn on a light. I don't know what they're talking about. You know what else is on? Going from that to Mr. Ed. I loved Mr. Ed. He was a talking horse. Ed the Redecorator is a rerun. While Carol and Wilbur are on vacation, Ed decides to have his stall done over in a Hawaiian motif. Okay, do you guys remember the theme song for Mr. Ed? I don't know if I remember the whole thing. A horse is a horse, of course, but who's ever heard of a talking horse? Unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Okay, so impressed that I could just recall all of that without looking it up. I loved Mr. Ed. A talking horse. What was not to like? To love, actually. What was not to love? Let's get clear. Also airing is an Ozzie and Harriet episode. And Perry Mason. I think I have shared with you before that my husband loves Perry Mason and still watches it to this day. So thank goodness it is on one of our Amazon Prime channels. We get it. I pay for something that has it. And then it's also on one of the stations. So I love to help him decompress after he comes home from work. So I try to put on a show that he will enjoy. So we haven't done Perry Mason in a while because we're definitely into British mysteries right now. But Perry Mason has been in heavy rotation in our house. So this episode, the case of the lawful Lazarus. Trevor Harris, who had been declared legally dead, suddenly turns up. Gosh, that's so interesting when that happens. At the bedside of his dying wife. And he doesn't agree with her decision to make her uncle the guardian of their children and their millions, because it's always about money, right? I don't know that episode, but I'm sure it has played in our house. Also, the Donna Reed show is on, which I don't know that I've ever seen an episode of. And Dr. Kildare, which I never saw, but I just know about because it starred Richard Chamberlain, who I would go on to have a giant crush on when he played Father Ralph de Bricasart in The Thornbirds. I loved him in The Thornbirds. So this is a Dr. Kildare episode with my future crush, Richard Chamberlain. Leave It to Beaver's also on. My Three Sons. I can still hear the theme song in my head. McHale's Navy, which I don't think I ever watched. Hazel, which I did. Hazel was the maid. Hazel's navy blue tugboats. Hazel bets George that she can get to a shoe sale and return within 80 minutes if she can borrow his car. Okay, I'm sure that was hysterical. Let's see what else is on. We've got Andy Williams, who had a variety show back in the day, something called Nurses, which I don't have any recollection of. And then we go into the evening stuff. Okay, we're now on to Friday morning. There's an I Love Lucy episode in rerun where Lucy and Ethel scheme to end their golf widowship. I have no idea what that means. But this is the first I Love Lucy with Desi Arnaz. So I've seen so many of those in the day. Also in reruns are the McCoys. And a bunch of shows I don't know. Oh, there's reruns of Burns and Allen. So George Burns and Gracie Allen had a sketch comedy show. So it's reruns of that. Which I think would be interesting to watch again at this point in time. Ernie Ford, who had a variety show, is in reruns. And Merv Griffin is on, and I don't know any of his guests. Musical comedy star Peter Cook and songstress Marilyn Lovell. Is Peter Cook somebody who is a British star? Maybe I do know him, I don't know. As well as reruns of Father Knows Best, Loretta Young, The Best of Groucho, again with Password. And in terms of other game shows, we have To Tell the Truth And we have Match Game. Wow, it looks like Gene Rayburn was hosting Match Game in 1963. I remember him from my day. And Florence Henderson and Paul Ford wind up a week as guest panelists. And this is Florence Henderson before the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch was not on yet. So that's interesting. The Brady Bunch wouldn't come on until I think I was 5 years old. And the only reason I say that is because I'm the same age as Cindy Brady. So however old Cindy Brady was when the show premiered, that's how old I was at the time. A really weird measurement of my childhood. How old is Cindy Brady in this episode? That's how old I was. Let's see what else is on. Bozo Circus. Why is that on in the evening? Okay, but it wasn't the Chicago Bozo Circus. I think each market had their own Bozo Circus. I've already shared with you about the magic that was Chicago's Bozo Circus and how hard it was to get a ticket. I never went to Bozo Circus. I always wanted to, but someone, I don't remember what the myth was. There was an 8-year waiting list or something like that. So I don't know how people actually got to go to Bozo Circus. But that is definitely an unrequited dream of childhood Laurel, to go to Bozo Circus, for sure. Oh, Superman is on. Okay, so my husband has very eclectic TV watching. He loves like the Sunday superheroes stuff when Batman is on and Superman and Wonder Woman. So we have watched Superman recently. He's adorable. I love my husband. And I would much rather that he watches those shows than, true crime, yellow tape shows. So I would much rather see an episode of Superman. So on Friday night, you could watch the premiere of the musical April in Paris from 1953. So in a case of mistaken identity, chorus girl Dynamite Jackson, fantastic name, is invited to represent the American theater at the Paris Festival. So it's with Doris Day, Ray Bolger, and Claudine Dauphine. Dynamite Jackson. That is a phenomenal name. I've never seen that, but it sounds good. Rawhide, which I don't think I ever saw an episode of. I never have been big on Westerns. Again, Wes loves his Westerns. That's the key to a good marriage. You give each other TV time. Like, it's fine. You can watch his Westerns and his Supermans and his Perry Masons and his British mysteries. And then, since he works during the day and I'm home, then, during the day, I catch up on my trash television. Because I watch really bad reality TV and I love all of the medical shows, the medical dramas, which a lot of them have gotten canceled, much to my dismay. But I had on rotation and have on rotation the ones that are still on: Chicago Med, Grey's Anatomy. I love New Amsterdam. I loved The Resident. I loved Code Black. So you put actors in a show, build out their characters, and make them work in a hospital, and I will for sure watch it. I love those shows. They're all the same to me, but they all have different characters and they're in different cities. And so I love a good medical drama. I just, since I'm telling you all about what my husband watches, I figured I should tell you what I watch as well. So I watched that. I watched The Challenge on MTV. I'm watching Teen Mom Family Reunion right now, because I watched those women for a long time when they were on 16 and Pregnant. I watched the 911. So there's 911 and then there's 911 Lone Star. I have a whole bunch of Chicago Fire to catch up on because I really let that one go. I watched Station 19, which is the lead-in to Grey's Anatomy, and I have no idea why ABC canceled that show. It's so good. So I watch TV too, just so you know. You also can watch Father Knows Best, Route 66. The Flintstones. Okay, so at this point, Flintstones is a primetime show. So in the way that The Simpsons was a primetime show and South Park, right? Even though it became syndicated for children, it started off as a primetime show and sort of a cartoon version inspired by the Honeymooners. So in this episode, Barney the Invisible, so this is a rerun, Fred has turned inventor. He's developing a new soft drink formula when Barney drops by with a bad case of the hiccups. Oh, it just ends there. That's I thought there was going to be another sentence that says, when Barney shows up with a case of the hiccups, Fred tries to cure him by hanging him upside down or something, but that's not it. It ends there. He's developing a new soft drink formula when Barney drops by with a bad case of the hiccups. That was as much plot as was needed. And hijinks ensued. So I'm sure that was hysterically funny. Oh, Alfred Hitchcock. I don't know that I watched a lot of those, but for some reason I feel like they were in my orbit. I think maybe they used to air late night in reruns on Channel 32 when I worked there, because I was responsible for getting all of the broadcast materials in-house and ready for broadcast. So maybe that's why that sounds familiar to... Oh, that is why it sounds familiar to me. It's all coming back to me now. So, and then in the evening you can watch Jack Parr, Peter Gunn, Dragnet, Sunset Strip, 77 Sunset Strip. Okay, and then we're sort of done with the broadcasting for the week. So we get to the back of the magazine where there are articles and ads. There's a couple ads I need to share with you. And of course, the TV Guide crossword puzzle, which whoever had this TV Guide back in 1963 filled it all out. So all the answers are there. But this one I have to share with you. It says, Donna's down, and it's a picture of a woman who's holding her hand to her head as if she has a headache. It says, periodic pain. You know what that's code for? She has her period, but they can't say that. Periodic pain. Every month, Donna was down because of functional menstrual distress. I can't believe they could use the word menstrual. Because of functional menstrual distress. Now she just takes Midol and goes her way in comfort because Midol tablets contain an exclusive antispasmodic that stops cramping, medically approved ingredients that relieve headache and backache, calm jumpy nerves, a special mood-brightening medication that chases blues. What do you think that was? So now Donna's up with Midol. And just as an aside, in terms of modern television, there is the funniest episode of Everyone Loves Raymond, where Raymond just doesn't know what to do because Deborah is really difficult to live with when she's on her cycle. And he is so confused and he does everything wrong. It is the funniest episode. Whenever it's on, Wes and I laugh so hard. Because it's so true, right? For those of you who aren't women, or don't have ovaries, I should say, or never had ovaries is a better way to say it. If you've never had a menstrual cycle, it's crazy. It's so hard because, a week out of the month, for me anyways, I became so emotional. And sometimes I was just off the charts emotional and I couldn't help it. Thank God that's not an issue for me anymore. Woo, thank goodness. Being almost 62 years old is a good thing. There is a fashion spread with Sid Charisse, who's just beautiful and an amazing dancer. The other thing I wanted to share with you is an ad which I did not remember until I saw this ad. So if you're my age, you might remember this. AIDS weight loss candy. It's spelled AYDS. So they're supposed to be vitamin and mineral candy that helps you lose weight. And the headline says, How Joan Bennett Loses Weight, Yet Eats What She Wants. this is the kind of BS that messed me up my whole life. Like, just eat an AIDS candy. That's all you need, Laurel. Just eat one of those things and you will be able to eat whatever you want and stay thin. Okay, so let's read this. What garbage are they selling us? At a glance, it would seem that Hollywood's Joan Bennett has a corner on the trim figure market. But the fact is, almost any woman can be slender if she knows how to do it. Oh my God, this is so painful. Okay, not really painful, but this is the era I was born into. She knows how to do it, and how to do it doesn't mean giving up meals, starvation, dieting, living on liquids, or taking drugs. It's simply a matter of taking low-calorie vitamin and mineral candy that helps make you slim. Okay. This is okay. I'll just keep going. I can do this. It is called AIDS. Taken as directed, AIDS cures your appetite. You automatically eat less because you want less, and so you lose weight naturally. This is exactly how Joan Bennett lost 10 pounds in 1951 and has kept the weight off ever since. So she says, on the AIDS plan, I've eaten vichyssoise, lasagna, creme brulee, all of my favorite dishes, yet stayed between 110 and 112 pounds for the past 12 years. AIDS encourages sound nutrition, trim healthy bodies. AIDS candy contains no laxatives, no drugs, no thyroid stimulants. It's what is medically known as an appetite deterrent and has been clinically proven. I know I ate me some AIDS candy in the day. Because of course I would. Because it was going to be my answer. Of course, it doesn't work. Yes, they get rich. And we just develop issues about why is this not working for us? So when I read this kind of stuff, it lets me have so much compassion for how effed up I was about having weight issues my whole life. Because there was always something. If it wasn't the AIDS candy, it was something else. Just do this. Just have watermelon on Tuesdays. Don't eat any bread. Cut out gluten. Just eat green food. Like whatever it was just that thing that worked for someone else, like Joan Bennett. And that would be my answer, which has never arrived. So, love and light to every woman who ever ate one of those disgusting candies, because I seem to recall they were fairly disgusting. They were like little, I think they were supposed to be chocolate, little chewables, little square chewables. Almost like a chewable vitamin, like a fudgy vitamin thing. And they were expensive, as I recall. Okay, we come to the crossword puzzle. A little bit lighter fare here. I don't know any of these, but somebody else filled this in. So I don't really know these answers, but someone else filled them in, so I'll sound very smart. The co-star of 77 Sunset Strip, Stu someone, I don't know who, but STU versus STEW. This one I do know. For Across is actor Lugosi. Lugosi. Bella. I knew that one. Bella Lugosi. Somebody, the host Collier. Bud Collier. I have no idea who that is. Now this is an interesting one. 12 Across is the 6th Jewish month. I can't believe that was one of the questions. It's Adar, A-D-A-R, which I did not know, but I do know that Adar is a Jewish month, but I wouldn't have known that. Money in Mexico must be peso. I didn't even have to look that one up. So I guess I would know some of these. But it just tickles me that someone in 1963 in pencil filled most of this out. There were things that they didn't get, but that's okay. We can't get everything. on the TV Guide crossword puzzle all the time. All right, and let's see, is there anything more I can share with you? So then there's just some little snippets about what's happening in television. So on Tuesdays, Red Skelton Show will be telecast a half hour earlier. And something formerly titled Ozark Widow is the new show. It's a spin-off from the Beverly Hillbillies. Will return Wednesday nights. The Judy Garland show, I guess, is still on. CBS's Thursday night battling order will be Password, Perry Mason, Rawhide, The Nurses. Oh, and The Nurses, we end there, because now it says something else about Route 66. All right, and I think that brings us... Wait, one more thing. Wait, I said we were almost done. But I was just reading at the bottom of this, and it says, ABC's Wide World of Sports now has a crew filming a trout fishing contest in Argentina for televising in May. One of my childhood memories was when there was nothing on television I wanted to watch, and it was things like trout fishing, and then one channel would have bowling, and then another channel would have, golf. And there would be nothing to watch for a kid. It was so sad because we didn't have any other options. We had to then go read a book or play a game or play outside. Such a hard childhood. Just trout fishing. Yay. Or bowling. Or like something awful would be on. There would be nothing that would be suitable for a kid to watch that we'd be interested in. And I think about how good kids had it, even, 15 years later, because that's when the VCRs came on the scene and they could rewatch something. And we never could. We just were at the mercy of the television gods or goddesses of what was on the air. So that would have been my luck. A Saturday with bowling and trout fishing and golf. And I loved reading, but, if I wanted to watch TV, it doesn't mean that I would just have settled for a book. I would probably have been rolling my eyes and, just so sad that there wasn't something on that I could watch. So the kids these days, they have it so good, right? They can watch anything they want whenever they want. Oh, life is good. So thank you for joining me in the Wayback Machine for this 1963 issue of TV Guide with the Beverly Hillbillies on the cover. Thank you for letting me share a little bit of my childhood with you. So, I wish you the sweetest of dreams. I'm grateful for our time together, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you.